seconds here. We will let everyone join us, and then in a minute, we will let you talk a bit about yourself. So we're officially live. Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of MaxWeb Video Podcast. If you are watching us if you are listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, please make sure to watch the episode on our YouTube channel later on, because Ian here, you can put the face with the powerhouse name that Ian Nagy is. So definitely, and leave any comments you have for us if you're joining us live, because we look forward to those. So without further ado, Ian, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on your show.
I am so honored that you made the time, and I always love to do this. If you would tell us a bit about yourself, rather than me making an introduction and maybe picking the stuff in your background that you don't feel like talking about, I would love if you spend just a few minutes telling us who Ian is, how did you get into this industry, and what do you focus on currently?
Yeah. So thank you, Anna, for the introduction. A little bit about me. So been in the direct response industry about 10 years. Previously, I used to work at Golden Hippo Media in LA. And then that led to doing a bunch of stuff like copywriting, like writing VSLs, producing VSLs, Facebook ads, Google ads, building web pages, all sorts of things. I have so I was an ambulance driver and then lost my job and ended up randomly getting a job at Golden Hippo, and that led to the whole direct response world. And then since then, fast forward, the last 3 years, really been focusing on video, specifically YouTube as an advertising platform. So last almost 4 years now, we've had an agency called Inceptly, which is one of the top performance YouTube agencies in the world. And we also do video on other platforms as well. And we also built a tool called VidTow, which is a YouTube ad library, because we're really real nerds about YouTube ads. So we wanted to see what's working. So we built a software that actually allows us to track hundreds of thousands of ads and see how they're working on a day-by-day basis, so that we can model them for our own campaigns. And it's free. You can check it out. It's vidtao.com, VIDTAO. And you can go in there and see what ads your competitors are running and all sorts of stuff. It's really cool. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We manage over $150 million on YouTube specifically, and we do a lot of live production in Portugal, so semi-neighbor country to where you're at right now. So over in Europe, and just doing a lot of fun stuff.
That's fantastic. Well, it's no secret. We didn't bury the lead, because we added YouTube as a topic for today's podcast, and we do have a lot of our affiliates that run YouTube, and we create a lot of our offers for social and native. So if you don't mind, I have a few questions for you, and I would just love to hear your expert opinion on those. So. I'm going to dig right in, because a lot of our affiliates have been running native forever, and a lot of them are starting to get into Facebook or YouTube. So your advice to someone starting on YouTube, tell me, where should we start? What are the do's and don'ts in your opinion?
So first thing I'll say is, if you have an offer that converts with a video sales letter somewhere in the funnel, first thing to do is try and see if you can get that approved as an ad. So I'm literally talking about that 45-minute video sales letter. Run it as an in-stream ad on YouTube to the order form, and we've seen tremendous success with that strategy. There are often issues with compliance, and that's where a good rep comes in. So if anyone has any issues on compliance side, feel free to reach out to me. We have very good Google contacts. Actually right next to Mountain View right now. So here in Los Altos, right next to Mountain View. So so that's the first thing. VSL, run it as an ad. And if you're running native, important thing to think about is how people are people, but platforms are kind of create a different context. So native, you have the image and the headline. Someone clicks typically, right? So typically image, headline, and then someone clicks and they go to either like a pre-sale page or actually go to maybe a longer form page, whatever. So YouTube can be a good analog for that. In fact, we did an article on this on our blog about, those foot patches. Yeah. So we were looking at like how you can sort of take those images that are proven to work on the native platforms and then make it into a compelling YouTube ad. And sort of the analog is the first 5 seconds in YouTube are where someone can skip the ad. That's where you really want to grab someone's attention. And so you can think of using that same imagery that you might use in the native image, like the native ad image. That can be a good type of imagery to test in that first 5 seconds. And then at 10 seconds in the ad, what happens is YouTube or Google registers what's called an engagement. So an engagement is a 10-second view of the ad. And that's one of the metrics that's really important for determining how much you pay per impression. So how much you pay for your traffic on YouTube for all the smart bidding campaigns. So you're paying per impression. If you're doing any kind of like target CPA, where you're saying, hey, Google, find me a customer for this amount, or find me a lead for this amount, where you're saying, hey, go find me conversions, then you're paying per impression. So that first 10 seconds is crucial for that. So first 5 seconds, first 10 seconds. So take the native image and headline and try to make a video where that imagery is incorporated in the first 5 seconds. And then you can think about the advertorial. Think about your best performing advertorial. Use that messaging as the first part of your ad. And then you can test that as a standalone ad driving to the next page that you would drive to from your pre-sale in your native funnel. So that can be another approach. The third thing I'll say is when you get a good VSL running, or really any ad that you find a way to make work on YouTube, a lot of scale can be achieved by when you find a control ad, changing the first 5 to 10 seconds, because you can make a massive difference. And we did a study where we spent, I think it was $8 million on 10 different ads, and they were the exact same ad, just a different intro, different 15-second intro. So 10 different intros. And we looked at it. We were wondering, like, why did this one ad perform so much better when the whole ad's the same except for this intro? And so we wanted to look and see, like, what was the emotional impact this ad was having. How can we quantify this emotional impact this ad was having? So we actually did a study where we looked at there's something called Paul Ekman, who was a psychologist. Basically, he did this study on like micro expressions.
Right.
So we did a cohort analysis of this. We looked at like 100 people on each ad, and we analyzed their facial expressions for the full ad, but specifically for the first 15 seconds. And what would you guess? Like, what would you guess would be the most common emotion? Like, what would be the emotion that the best ad sort of elicited from the audience? What would you guess? Like surprise, anger? What would you guess?
Joy, smiles.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same thing. I thought it would be something like some kind of excitement, right? Turns out in this case, it was the most emotional flatline ad, like the most boring ad. And yeah, it was crazy because you never know, right? In this case, it led with the price. It literally led with the price, which is like almost a no-no for, copywriting sort of. The copywriting canon will tell you don't do that. And who knows, that approach might not work for every type of offer. But point being, those intros really matter. So when you find a good ad that's winning, test new intros, and you get a lot of mileage out of that. So those are my three things. I can go a lot more detail, but this is sort of a starting point.
That is beautiful and so important. And I'm so glad that you mentioned video sales letters, because that's our specialty, right? I mean, we partner with people that also create, the standard e-com pages, rarely, but VSLs are, our love. And obviously it's a different game from native or Facebook, but you are right. So many of the same, principles with how to get your audience hooked, on how to focus on content, because I speak a lot about native, and just hearing you talk about YouTube, it's a lot of the same stuff, and the way you were just telling us about what worked and what didn't. I always say this, never assume that something is going to work just because it looks good, because your theme thinks is going to sell, right? You need to test, because you never know what people are actually going to click on, right? You would be surprised, but that's why we need to test all the time. But it's super
100%.
interesting. That was so helpful to know, like the 5 second, the 10 second, that those are very important, and I can imagine for YouTube ads. And I had a few more questions, but I've noticed a question here that actually ties in well. Here it is. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one too, Ian. How long should the video ad be? 5 minutes or less, or maybe 15 seconds or less? What do you think?
Yeah, so as long as it needs to be. So like I was saying earlier, literally run your video sales letter, your 45-minute sales letter as an ad. Test that to your order form. If you have a converting VSL, go for that. And you'll hear, like, we actually, so we had an email go out that we sent out, that sharing some info we got from one of our reps, like I think it was about a year and a half ago, saying, oh, there's a CPM tax you pay if the video is longer than 3 minutes.
Right.
And
I heard about that.
yeah. So we actually, like, we were the sort of, at least I know, we sent out this email, and all of a sudden all these other people were talking about it. So we heard it from our Google rep, and we shared it with everybody. And even he said, like, after the fact, he goes, you know what, there's not actually a tax. Yes, all things being equal, you will pay more for a longer video on YouTube. If you think about it, it makes sense, right? It's an opportunity cost for Google. If you're sitting there, instead of clicking around watching like 20 ads, you're watching just one ad for 45 minutes, you're going to pay for that. But the thing is that, you know, the real metrics we want to look at are CPA. What are you paying per customer? And those longer ads typically they're going to convert a lot better. So conversion rate is going to be much higher. So I'll say this. I would say, so there's one sort of type of ad is this long form VSL, and then there's sort of a shorter video, video that just is trying to get you to have a qualified click to the next page. Maybe there's more of a conversion mechanism to get you to buy. So those videos usually are under 3 minutes for us. So usually 2 to 3 minutes. So those are the kind of two types of videos that we typically run with from a length perspective, like 2 to 3 minutes, 45 minutes, and also like the sort of 5-ish sort of mini VSL, selling a lot of times for software, where it's sort of like an explainer. Those are the 3 most common types of video. But you'll see, you look on Big Cow or any other spy tool, you'll see like there are a lot of different videos that are working, but those are the sort of the 3 main categories that we typically engage with. So I don't know if that helps.
It helps a lot, and it's such good news, because the truth is we spend a lot of money and time into creating the VSLs, because, you know, the psychology is to get the customers to watch the entire VSL, because they're going to order, you know, the average order value is going to be better if they watch the whole thing. So the fact that you're telling us, guys, it's okay to run the VSL as an ad, that is really good news, genuinely. I assumed it's going to be very complicated. We've tried a few things, and we tried like a shorter ad that goes to the VSL, but this is actually very good news.
For sure. Give it a go. I think you'll be happy with the results.
Amazing. Brilliant. Next question. How are YouTube ads different from Facebook or Instagram or any other platforms that you've run in the past? Or you've done YouTube and you can have an opinion on different platforms?
No, I've definitely had my account and personal account banned many times on Facebook. So for my ad efforts, so I can definitely, we manage pretty much. I think we're on, I want to say, pushing like 15 different platforms at this point. So a lot of different native platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. Even though we built our business primarily around YouTube, because YouTube is a channel where if you can get a video to work on YouTube, it can work really well on Facebook, for instance, or Instagram, or specifically Facebook, not necessarily Instagram, because it's more like length restrictions there. But so I'll say this: the thing to remember about Facebook and Instagram is that they're really interruptive ad platforms. So you think about the context, you're on Facebook and Instagram. Typically, you're on mobile. Typically, we're doing something, kind of half doing one thing, maybe like waiting in line or something, and we're scrolling, just kind of checking stuff. And then, oh, here comes an image that's kind of interesting. Oh, I'm going to click on that. So it's like an interruptive type of thing So it's high curiosity type of environment versus YouTube. We're typically going on YouTube to either learn something or be entertained. And we're usually looking for something specific, or we're going down some rabbit hole and we're immersed in either a quest for knowledge or some kind of like, trance-like entertainment state. And so the ad needs to sort of match that. And so that's why, you have people's full undivided attention on YouTube typically. And also it's a sound on environment. Typically Facebook, Instagram are sound off. So those are some keys to remember. So the types of creatives that work on YouTube are going to be different than those on Facebook or Instagram.
That's very, very helpful. Oh man, we have so many questions. Guys, let me get my questions in and then it's your turn. All right, brilliant. So what kind of scale have you seen possible with YouTube? Are we talking a few hundred sales every day, thousands of sales per campaign? What type of scale is possible? And I know obviously it depends on the offer, but just because you are the expert when it comes to YouTube ads, what type of scale do you think is possible?
Oh yeah, I mean massive scale. So $100,000 a day plus is definitely possible with a good offer. And obviously at that scale, everything needs to be dialed in. Your customer service. If you're selling a physical product, then obviously your logistics need to be dialed in. Otherwise, you're in for a world of hurt when people order things that don't arrive, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, in terms of like acquisition, there is enormous scale on YouTube, and that's one of the reasons why we love it. Is because if you're hitting your front end metrics, you can scale very quickly. So I mean, you can never promise anything, but when everything's lined up, we've seen going from zero, like a totally new account, going from zero to spending $20K a day in under 2 weeks, and then just scaling up from there as well. The challenge is the creative, so that's the biggest challenge, and that's why. If you already have a converting video sales letter, you've already done the hard work of getting a converting creative. You just kind of need to port it over to YouTube. And then also there might be some adjustments on the intro side, but typically you have an amazing asset and you really want to, test it out on YouTube if that's the case.
Amazing. And I'm so curious because we, on a daily basis, we use a lot of tools, right? For native, for social, even internally, right? To see, to run competitive analysis and whatnot. What are a couple of tools or a few tools that you guys use in the office a lot and that helps you be better at your job, even if it is creating ads, checking what everyone else is doing, keeping a close eye on your campaigns and, to make sure everything converts, that you have your post back in check. Just tell me what tools you guys are using. That's always super helpful for us to know.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the competitive analysis and research, the biggest tool we use is the one we built ourselves. So it's and you can use it too. It's free. It's called VidTow, and it's a free YouTube ad library. And so we have.
Mind if I add it to the comments so everyone can see?
Yeah, absolutely.
What else?
vidtao.com. So that's great for YouTube ad research. We love AdBeat for native ad research. AdBeat's super helpful. And then SimilarWeb provides just an amazing amount of data. And then SEMrush, we use SEMrush as well. And you can use the cool thing is you can see like what's interesting about tools like SEMrush and SimilarWeb, yeah. So is that you can see the organic terms that people are searching for that lead to the competitor's site. So you can see how they're, what sort of organic terms are valuable. You can orient content around that. So you can make content, you can add those in as potentially like hooks or features, benefits, etc., for your ads. So I find that to be super helpful. In terms of strategizing, we a lot of times we'll use stuff like Miro, which is an online whiteboard, to kind of just drop a bunch of ideas down and mix and match.
Amazing. I have not used that yet, so
it's a great tool.
I'm going to make a note too. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you spend all this money going to really fancy masterminds, and in the end, it's really important to know what tools others are using because it really helps, be more productive and get, what we need out of the day for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Amazing. When it comes to spending budgets, right? So I always like people to know what they're getting themselves into with, with
Mhm,
affiliate marketing. For native, if you want to start something on Outbrain, it's ideal to have at least $500 a day. With
mhm,
Facebook, or you can set a campaign. You can have $20 a day, and you can be running something. What type of budgets? Obviously, in general, it can be broad. What type of budgets should we set aside as a new affiliate trying to run YouTube for the first time? What is my daily budget to actually have a chance to making something convert? Let's say we get a CPA of $100 because that's what we
mhm,
actually pay.
mhm. Yeah, I would start with probably around $500 a day is a good starting budget. You can do so. Typically, what we'll do on the targeting side is we're usually pe- companies usually bring us into scale on YouTube. So what I'm about to say is biased by that, where they already have, like, maybe they're already scaling on native or maybe on Facebook or other email traffic, and they are most interested in finding out, can we make YouTube work as a scaling platform quickly? And so we'll often come in and have it in budget of $1,000 to $2,000 a day out of the gate. But if you're trying to be really start really sort of small and iterate and keep it really lean, you can go under that. I would just, let's say you have a CPA goal of $100. You could also, yeah, you could do things like running maximize conversion campaigns versus target CPA campaigns. You can split up your budget amongst, like, let's say you have the top 3 in-market audiences that you got on your Google Analytics that you're seeing for other sources of traffic. You can use those as targeting options, and split the budget amongst those. But yeah, I mean, like 500 a day is a good starting point, I think, for that
Really,
situation.
very helpful, right? And I know it's always hard to answer questions like this, but it's so important to have a ballpark to know what to expect. Okay, amazing. So when things go wrong with YouTube, what's usually the cause?
hmm
Right?
Um, track. So the biggest problem is we usually encounter compliance.
Mm,
That's where having human contact at Google is very helpful.
mm.
Number 2 is tracking. So something breaking in the funnel. So could be anything, but being on top of that. So we usually like to have multiple sources of truth. When we're running ads, we always want to be plugged into the back end and see the actual sales coming in for whatever traffic we're sending, and in real time if possible. That way we can troubleshoot. So those are the 2 main ones. But in terms of the sort of on the media buying and creative side, the if you have a creative that's working, if you've cracked the code on one creative, that's fantastic. Then your challenge becomes avoiding creative fatigue and keeping that creative alive at scale, which means, like I said earlier, testing more hooks on that existing creative. And then also spending about 10 to 20% on entirely new moonshot creatives. So entirely different style of creatives. For VSL offers, I would actually, you can think about like maybe 10, 20% on entirely new types of hooks. So maybe like some weird comedic TikToker hook that somehow gets attention. Maybe it's going on backstage, like Peter Kell, um, talked about this at our live event, which is going on backstage and getting backstage.com, getting like a nightmare story from someone related to the offer, tying that into the intro, all those sorts of things. So creative fatigue is a big challenge. But yeah, in terms of getting to that point, it's all about the creative. The creative is, the not the 80/20, it's like the 95/5 to being able to have an offer work on YouTube.
That's really, really, great advice. And I made a mental note on the compliance aspect because I know that's true. And I know, for us with native, it's so important to have, we have a good relationship with Outbrain or Rev Content or Taboola. But if you're just getting started and you don't get a Google rep, what's the best way to go about it? Or do you just have to be patient?
Yeah, I mean, anyone here can email me, and if you're if you have your own offer, especially, I can set you up with one of our contacts at Google. They're always looking to help new businesses. If you're an affiliate, then to be honest, well, a couple of things. One sort of unconventional thing is try to go to events like Affiliate World, do some LinkedIn, just headhunting, and try to get contacts to all the networks. Anna, James Van Elswick, right?
Of course. I
Yeah.
actually wanted to wear my Geek Out sweater today, but I did this one.
Yeah, James is a great guy, amazing business owner, and also has an amazing history with native ads with his own agency and offers. And so James actually moved to Tel Aviv at one point to go basically sit by the Outbrain and Google offices and make contact with people. And because the reps have, Anna, you know better than I do, the reps that's your golden ticket on those platforms. So same thing applies here. We have, like I said, on Google, the Google reps we have access to are amazing, and they're providing creative strategy as well. And they see everything that's happening across all accounts, very curious people. So you can get a lot of insights that aren't really, they're not like, no one's going to hand you here's the campaign that this other offer is running.
Right.
But you might be able to say, hey, did you think about a creative like this, X, Y, and Z? Try this out, or stuff like that. So it's all about, just like you're saying, masterminds. I think that making these personal connections is key, especially if you're serious about making this, digital advertising your line of work, your livelihood. Then your network is your net worth, and that applies to really having a relationship with these ad platforms as well. So yeah, put in the hard work there, and like here we are in Mountain View right now, trying to go meet with Google.
That's fantastic. Our team in Ibiza last week, and they know one of the main things I underlined before they took the trip: make sure you meet with Google.
Absolutely.
We're there, right? And I agree. And guys, I promise Ian and I did not discuss this before the call, but this is advice that I always give, especially with other platforms. Is that easy? If you're a nice person, you try to build a report. They are humans just like us. They want to work with people they understand. They want to work with people they can trust. If you show them you're serious, this is your career, you're trying to make some good ads, to make money for, legit campaigns, they want you to succeed, right? But it's really hard to put a person's face if you're just behind the computer. It's so much harder. So that's brilliant advice. And obviously I agree with that.
And I'd say that goes for also if you're an affiliate getting offers, or if you're doing anything, then it's like the ultimate shortcut. Like, Anna, why are we having this podcast now? It's because we met in Barcelona, right? Exactly. So it's like, if there's any shortcut to anything, it's all about these relationships. So getting on calls with people, doing podcasts, meeting people in person is like the ultimate accelerant for all this. It's like that's the shortcut. And yeah, just hanging out and just being a good person and delivering value. Like, hey, what can I do for you? That's going to be the way to go. So for sure.
I love it. I agree. All right, guys, I'm coming. I see so many questions. Do you mind if we take a few?
Let's do it.
Can you read the comments too? I'm going to just read them out loud because some people love to just listen to us on Spotify. So we got to Carol's. Okay, next one. Hey, Ian, do you start with a broad targeting and then lower the GEOs? I think that's a question because, on native, you start like worldwide. And then if something does good on US and Canada, you just widen or change the GEOs. How do you do it on YouTube? Or you just get some insight from the product owners as to where to target?
Getting insights from the product owners is always helpful. And if they have any kind of restrictions on geo, then we want to, of course, abide by that. But typically we'll start on a country level, and we'll do, let's say, US. And if we can make US work, let's say it's like a software product, then we would, we would test worldwide from there as well, English speaking worldwide. For any kind of supplement offer, let's say that's the geo level. In terms of targeting, we're typically looking for so there's a couple ways you can target many ways you can target on Google, but usually out of the gate, we're doing a few things. So like I mentioned earlier, we're looking at, we might even test we might test a demographic campaign. We might test like US men 45 up or something like that.
Yep.
So we might test that. We might test the in-market audiences, which is all the data Google has on your behavior online. Like, oh, all of a sudden Ian starts searching for a Tesla, then I'm in market for a Tesla. Like my behavior is suddenly shifted where I'm looking for something where I wasn't previously. You can target people around that. And then I think one of the coolest things about Google is something called a custom audience. It used to be called like a custom intent audience, and maybe it's called something different now. I'm not the one, our team building all the campaigns or audiences, but the concept remains the same, which is you can dump in your, let's say, competitor keywords, competitor URLs, and basically say, hey, I want to go after, these particular types of people who would visit a site like, drgundry.com or whatever, gundrymd.com. And then you can actually target those people because Google has data on those people. And so you can make thematically grouped custom audiences around that, which can be super helpful. And then on the super granular level, you can target placements. So you can target certain channels on YouTube, certain videos, actually. We don't do much of this, to be honest, because most of the views for videos happen in the first 72 hours. So a lot of you might see a video with, 100 million views, but it might be mostly dead inventory, meaning you're not going to get that much traffic off of that. But yeah, that's kind of an overview of the way we target. But typically we'll start broad because we're really only interested, like the way we work typically is we want to have proof of concept that a creative can work at scale, an offer can work at scale. And so that's why we're usually going after broad audiences or relatively broad audiences first.
That's super helpful. Thank you. Okay, amazing. I hope that was helpful. Now, the next question is on spy tools. Any good spy tools for YouTube, or is that something you don't recommend? I know you already replied, and I think we're all gonna check Vitel. How do you guys get the information? I mean, are other marketers allowed to share what works for them? I'm obviously assume you guys do share what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can see some of our clients are on Vital. You can definitely see what they're doing. But you can, so what we do is we have a plugin, a Chrome plugin. And so what you do is you load the Chrome plugin, and then while you're on YouTube, if you see an ad that you like, that you want to, this is actually the first tool we built was this tool. So it's a Chrome plugin so that if you see an ad that you like, you can just click on the plugin and it'll save it to your swipe file in Vital so that you can look at it later. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then it just disappears and you can never, I saw this amazing ad, but this allows you to build your swipe file. And so in doing that, we have, I think 53,000 users now. So people are doing this all day. So there's just more and more ads added to the mix.
Brilliant, super helpful. I'm really excited to give it a try. Okay, this is a good one. Do you think weight loss or health are better for YouTube as a niche in general? We do have the two categories. We usually do more health, but I know a lot of affiliates focus on weight loss. So I'm really curious, besides software, what do you run a lot?
Oh yeah, a lot of health offers. So yeah, weight loss in terms of like certain weight loss supplements maybe are not compliant on YouTube depending on the messaging. But again, it's always worth a test. But yeah, health is huge. The 50 plus demographic is massive on YouTube. And we, our biggest clients, or some of our biggest clients, are health offers catering to those folks. So,
same for the offers that we create. So I'm happy to hear you say that, obviously. That's great. All right, Vic. Hey, Ann, do you need a YouTube channel to advertise? I assume just a Google account, right? But maybe I'm wrong. You do need
you do need a channel, but you don't need any kind of history. You can create a channel and then in 10 minutes link it up with your Google account, and it doesn't have to have any history. And there's no real, there's just don't let that be an obstacle. Just make a quick channel, link it up to your Google account, and then go.
Amazing, very good. All right, all right. Is the creative script or video scenes more important?
Yeah, it's actually a good question. So I have a friend who used to work at a company called Six Pack Shortcuts. If you remember from like maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, they're huge. they're a huge, they're one of the first direct response advertisers to really crack the code on YouTube. So Johnson Lee is his name. He actually has a really great Facebook group you should join. Just look up Johnson Lee.
I'm there.
You're there. Anna has a link. So Johnson has a great group about this. And Johnson, he has some awesome advice around YouTube. He's badass YouTube marketer. But he said something interesting, which was you should see, like, look at the ad with the sound off and see, like, you get it with no audio. So I think it's really what you show is extremely important to making the ad work. But it does all start with how you design the ad, how you, in terms of what's said, what's shown usually corresponds to what's said. So I think what's shown on screen starts from the script that you create typically. And so yeah, that's a massive leverage point is really nailing those scripts. And that's why for instance, on our tool, you can grab the transcript for ads and see, like, second 00 to second 03, here's what's said. And you can kind of, this is actually a helpful tip. So look at your competitors' ads, download transcripts, and then try to understand what are they trying to do in each of these time frames. Like, what's their intention here? Like, what are they echoing a problem or like a nightmare scenario back to the viewer? Are they providing social proof? Like, what kind of social proof? Or are they making an amazing offer, reason to click through, et cetera? Just breaking things down, understanding the elements at play is really important.
Super helpful. I'm gonna remember this. When you look at an ad, turn off the sound and see if you understand the vibe and what we're trying to portray. Mm-hmm. That's a good advice when you create a good VSL also, right? Especially
for sure.
The shock and whatnot. All right, brilliant. That's a good one. For how long should I test an offer to determine if a campaign is successful or a failure? That's a good one, just because, I mean, how many days you let the campaign live if you don't have any conversion and you're supposed to get a CPA? How long until you cut your losses usually?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it depends on your position. So if you're an affiliate and you have a limited number of dollars to spend, and you want to maximize the number of offers you test to find that winning offer that you're going to be able to scale to the moon with, my suggestion might be a little bit different, but basically, I would say for us, usually we'll spend $1,000 per creative to test, and usually that'll be, so we'll test, maybe spend like $5,000 per offer to test. Yeah, but you can like dramatically reduce it.
Yeah, I agree. With 5K, we always say this. With 5K, usually know if it has legs to stand on. I'm not saying
exactly.
You're going to be money after $5,000, but at least you'll know if it makes sense to continue running it or not. So I'm glad you said that. Amazing. All right, Nicholas, are you looking to target a specific CTR to determine a winner?
So I think click-through rate is important. It's definitely so people, when I mentioned earlier about someone watching to 10 seconds as an engagement, another way that Google defines an engagement is someone clicking. So these are ways that Google defines the cost of traffic. And also, obviously, if you want the ad to work, you got to get people to click through. So it is important to look at click-through rate. However, the way we're usually evaluating success is dollars in, dollars out. So how much money did we spend? What do we generate from that? Or what CPA did we hit, et cetera. And that being said, generally we're looking for click-through rates of above 1%. But I will say this, at scale to really broad audiences, that can be significantly lower and still wildly profitable and successful. I think our best performing campaigns, we're spending, close to 6 figures a day. A lot of times are super broad offers. They're not hitting 1% click-through rate in all cases. Like, it might be under, it might be like 0.6 or 0.7. Again, it just depends on, what the dollars in, dollars out results are. But all things being equal, we are usually trying to get that CTR higher, because it makes a difference.
Amazing. Thank you. All right. Next one. Which tool you use for tracking?
For tracking? So depends. So we have our own tools that we built that look at campaigns holistically in terms of like a lot of times in your track, if you have something you're selling on the D2C front, and you're also selling on Amazon, and you're selling across the board, and you have a bunch of traffic channels in the mix, it can be helpful to look at something called media mix modeling, which is basically it's a probabilistic tracking. It's actually really old technology. It's from the 60s, I believe, when they had ENIAC computers. And only companies like Coke or big multinationals could afford this computing power. But they could tell you, like, okay, we put a billboard here. How did it uplift sales in this geo? And they could see, like, okay, it actually this is the difference it made. But now with computing power so cheap, it's much easier to deal with that. But yeah, so that's on one level, kind of the more holistic level, use tools like that. And then, a lot of our clients will use Hyros or Wicked Reports, or, we'll use affiliate tracking too. So it just depends on the situation and what we're trying to accomplish.
Amazing. All right. So usually I try very hard to keep the podcast short and sweet, because I know when we nerd out, we can, talk about specific topics for hours. So last question. If you want our audience to take one thing out of today's podcast, just, it can be advice or something that you think it's super important for them to know about YouTube ads, a bit of wisdom from you, what would that be?
Yeah, so I would say, I think the guy Ryan Levesque actually said this. First person I heard say this: emulate before you innovate. So don't try to recreate the wheel. See what your competitors are doing. See what other types of ads are working in your market, and then craft your ads following as closely as possible what they're doing. Peter Kell, another brilliant video sales letter marketer, said the same, which is, the spy tools are the books that he reads. The spy tools tell you what's working. They show you what's working. And then you break those ads down, you'll see the secret for making a successful offer, really. So those are the two things that I would say.
Amazing. So helpful. And Ian, thank you so much for taking the time. We are honored to have you here, and we will take you up on that. We will, if we can email you, especially, the product owners and the ones that have offers, if we can shoot you emails, we will definitely take you up on that.
Awesome, Anna. Honor to be on your podcast. It was great to see you in Barcelona. Hope to see your team in San Diego, and then
sure.
Yeah, looking forward to the future.
Absolutely. You are wonderful. And it's always so good to brainstorm with beautiful minds. So thank you, Ian. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And everyone, you are amazing. Please drop any comments if you have them for us. We will go back to Ian and ask if we don't know the answer. So keep the comments coming. I know it's the middle of the night for you guys, for a lot of you. So if you're going to wake up tomorrow and you have a few questions, we are here for you. So have a brilliant day, and thank you for listening and tuning in.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna.